So I did listen to the whole Joe Rogan podcast featuring Douglas Murray and Dave Smith. And it was extremely interesting for many reasons. Especially the whole debate concerning Israel and Palestine. Now, I'm not going to go into the arguments from one part or from the other part, because that's not what my videos are about, really. I'm not here to discuss the nitty-gritty of, political events around the world, although I may touch on the subject from a spiritual perspective, because to me that's what's important. There are lots of reasons why some people might be more pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. One may find all kinds of intellectual arguments to put their support behind one faction or the other faction. In all conflict of that nature in history, there are almost always reasons to be behind one camp or the other camp. And sometimes those reasons are purely selfish, because it's your camp. You want to be, a good patriot, I guess. So if you feel that you've been wronged in the past by the other camp or by some other camps, and you feel that you deserve this or you deserve that, and in order to get this or in order to get that, you ought to trample the other people. You ought to, wage war upon them, and they, in turn, will sooner or later seek revenge and try to annihilate you, and back and forth and back and forth. And some people will say, yeah, but history happened like this, but yeah, history, no, it didn't happen like this, it happened like that. And debates and conflict go on forever, because such antagonism between people will never end, it seems. And people will never agree. So what's the solution? Because the solution, it seems, is not in what the truth is, the historical truth is. And I'm not here to debate what the historical truth is, because I'm not an expert on this question at all. I mean, I can do like anyone else can do, that is, read stuff about it. But whatever it is that you read, some people won't agree with this author or that author, this historian or that historian. It's never ending. The solution to a conflict like that has nothing to do with what is the perceived historical truth. It has nothing to do with, force, military force. Because if one succeeds in, say, winning the war, whatever that means, in this conflict or others, a great deal of hate is going to be generated by doing that, and as a result of that. And this hate will find its expression sooner or later. Which is why I made one of my previous videos a warning against the cultivation of hate, which is directly against soul law. Let's say number 2, which is you should love thy brother as thyself. If you hate, you're directly against that. And you are directly and automatically diminishing the inner strength of your inner light. You're moving away from soul reality, because soul reality cannot hate in a personal sense. So, what's the solution? I gotta say, there is no solution apart from a very, very deep cultural change. There is no solution apart from a very deep cultural change. People ought to become convinced, eventually, that past injustices, fights, wars, differences of any kind have to be, in a sense, forgotten, and you got to focus on the truth. The truth about the nature of your soul being exactly the same as the nature of your neighbor's soul, be it your brother or that other group you may hate. There is no solution outside of that. It's not morality. It's not like a good value. It has to do with the absolute truth about soul nature. What is truly good in life? When we talk about good versus evil, what's truly good have to do with the inner reality, the inner nature of things. And so, there is no way to be good if you go against your inner nature. It's that simple. It's the nature of things. It's not like a moralistic thing. It's not a religious thing. It's not a thing about beliefs or even spirituality. It has very little to do with spirituality. It is the nature of things. Your soul is like your brother's soul, is like your neighbor's soul. So, culture has to eventually become a reflection of those inner truths. Culture has to become a reflection of inner truth. It doesn't have to become a reflection of this religion or that religion. It's nothing to do with religion. Religion can be, and perhaps should be, entirely forgotten about when the true nature of the human soul is something widely known, accepted, and, deeply realized within, not just believed in, but deeply realized within. We don't need religion. Religion is just a placeholder for the deep realization of what the truth is. When you do not know, you believe. But when you know, you don't believe, you know. And by knowledge, I don't mean merely repeating some conceptual stuff that you may have memorized, or that you see that it's logical to think in a certain way. It goes beyond that. It goes way beyond that. Inner realization is above the mind. So above belief, above logic, above conceptual understanding and knowledge. It's deeper than that. So it's very important that even though you may manifest for the freeing, so-called, of Palestine, well, if this freeing has to do with, or is based on, a sense that the other party are not your brothers, you're going to fail. Somehow. If your fight for one party or the other is basically just generating hate, you will fail. Somewhere down the line, you will fail, because the hatred you generate will follow you and will constrict you. The nature of hatred is to imprison consciousness in a very tiny small box of suffering and war and violence with the person you hate, if that person responds with hate. Hate each other? If you both hate each other with passion and ferocity, you're going to be stuck together in a box, in an existential box that's going to be more and more constrictive, smaller and smaller, where you will fight and torture each other as long as you keep on hating. This is the nature of hate. That's what it does to consciousness. It constricts it, and it brings closer together the object of your hate. It's the opposite of soul expansion, the opposite of enlightenment, the opposite of more life, more light within yourself and in expression through yourself. It's the opposite of that. It is dark and painful energies that are, in a sense, non-human, that will constrict you and put you again in that very small existential box with what you hate. With what you hate, and you will be able to do only that. Hate and fight. Is that somewhat of a picture of what's happening in the Middle East? Two neighbors, hating and fighting. Exactly.